I was already pulling into her street when I saw it. That silver Chevy Tahoe parked right in front of my cousin Brianna's house. The same car I had helped pick out 2 years ago. The same car with the small dent on the back bumper that Marcus never got around to fixing. I slowed down without even realizing it. My hands tightened on the wheel. My brain was telling me to keep driving, to find a reason, any reason, for why my husband's car would be parked outside my cousin's house on a Tuesday afternoon when he was supposed to be at work in downtown Atlanta. But my body had already stopped the car on the other side of the street. I sat there in silence, engine running, just staring. My name is Taylor. I am 29 years old. I work as a dental office manager in Decatur, Georgia, and I have been married to Marcus for 4 years. I thought I knew my life. I thought I knew my marriage. I thought I knew the people I loved. That Tuesday proved me wrong on all three. Before I keep going, if you are new here, please take a second to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this story does not end where you think it does. And you are going to want to be here for everything that comes next. I had taken the afternoon off from work because my boss had given us a half day ahead of the holiday weekend. I did not tell Marcus. I wanted to surprise him later that evening with dinner at his favorite spot downtown, the little Creole place on Peachtree that he always talked about but we never actually went to. But first I decided to stop by Brianna's house. She had texted me a few days before saying she had not been feeling well, and I figured I would drop off some soup and a card. A small thing, a kind thing, something I did not think twice about. Brianna is my first cousin on my mother's side. We grew up together. She was the one who taught me to ride a bike. She was a bridesmaid at my wedding. She gave a toast that made everyone in the room cry. She has been in my life since before I can remember, and I trusted her the way you only trust people who have been with you since the very beginning. So when I saw Marcus's car in front of her house, my first instinct was not anger. It was confusion. It was that feeling of looking at something that does not make sense, like when you put your keys somewhere and then they are not there and your brain just keeps looping because it cannot accept that something is wrong. I kept telling myself there was an explanation. Maybe Marcus had taken a long lunch and decided to stop by to check on her too. Maybe she had called him about something in the house, a leak or a broken something, and he had come to help. Marcus was good at fixing things. That was always one of the things I loved about him. I sat in that car for maybe 10 minutes. I did not call him. I did not call her. I just sat there watching the front door like it was going to tell me something. The neighborhood was quiet. It was a warm afternoon, the kind of Tuesday in September that still feels like summer in Georgia. A few kids were riding their bikes down the sidewalk. A dog was barking somewhere in the distance. Everything around me was completely normal. Only I was not normal. Only I was sitting in my car with my heart beating in a way that did not feel right. Then the front door opened. Marcus came out first. He was wearing the blue button-down shirt I had ironed for him that morning. His jacket was folded over his arm. He was laughing. Not a polite laugh, not a nervous laugh, the kind of easy, comfortable laugh that people only have when they are completely relaxed and comfortable. The kind of laugh I had not heard from him in a long time. Brianna came out right behind him. She had her hair down, which she never wore down. She was wearing a yellow sundress. She looked good. She looked like she was not sick at all. They stood on the porch for a moment. Marcus reached out and touched her arm. It was not a dramatic gesture. It was not something you could point to and say, that right there, that is proof of something. But it was the way he touched her, the way she looked at him when he did it. It was the kind of small, easy moment between two people who are used to each other, in a way they have no business being used to each other. I did not get out of the car. I did not honk. I did not call out his name. I watched him walk to his car, get in, and pull away. Brianna stood on the porch until he was gone. Then she went back inside. I drove home. The whole way home, I did not cry. I was not even sure what I was feeling. I kept running through everything in my head, every conversation, every time Marcus had mentioned Brianna, every time he had acted strange, every evening he had come home a little later than usual. I started lining things up in my head like pieces of a puzzle, and I did not like the picture they were making. When I got home, I went straight to the kitchen and sat at the table. I did not turn on the television. I did not make coffee. I just sat there in the quiet of my own house and thought. I thought for a long time. Marcus came home around 6:30 that evening like nothing had happened. He kissed me on the cheek. He said the office had been crazy and he was exhausted. He asked what was for dinner. I told him I had not cooked. He said that was fine and suggested we order something. We ordered Thai food and ate in the living room and watched television, and he talked about something that had happened at the office, and I nodded and said the right things, and the whole time I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere outside my own body. That night, after he fell asleep, I picked up my phone and scrolled back through months and months of our text messages. I was looking for something I had not known I was looking for, and I found more than I expected. There were messages where he mentioned Brianna in passing, nothing unusual at first glance. But as I looked closer, I noticed small things. A comment she had made that he had found funny. A mention of something she had cooked that he had apparently eaten. References to conversations I had never been part of. Small, scattered things that on their own meant nothing. But together they told a story. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Marcus was asleep next to me, breathing slow and even. 4 years of marriage. Our wedding photo was on the nightstand. I remembered that day with a kind of ache that surprised me. I had been so happy. I had been absolutely certain I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I had looked at him at the altar and felt like the luckiest woman in that church. I did not sleep that night. The next morning, Marcus left early for work. Before he even pulled out of the driveway, I was already at my laptop. I am not proud of everything I did in the next 48 hours, but I am also not going to pretend I did not do it. I needed to know. When you suspect something like that, when you have that feeling in your stomach that has never been wrong, you cannot just let it go. You have to know. The not knowing is worse than anything. I went through phone records. I looked at credit card statements. I found things. Not everything. Not the whole story yet. But enough to know that what I had seen was not nothing. There had been lunches. There had been a hotel in Buckhead 3 months before. There had been a pattern of contact that went back further than I had realized. Almost a year. A year. I kept coming back to that. Almost a year. I called in sick to work that day. I sat in my house and I let myself feel everything I had been holding back since the moment I saw that car on Brianna's street. I cried for a while. Not a gentle cry, the kind that shakes you from somewhere deep, the kind you can't really control. I cried for the marriage I thought I had. I cried for the cousin I thought was my family. I cried for the version of myself who had no idea any of this was happening while she was ironing his shirts and planning dinner surprises and thinking her life was exactly what it looked like. Then I stopped. I washed my face. I made myself a cup of coffee. I sat back down at the kitchen table and I thought about what I was going to do next. Not what I wanted to do, not what I felt like doing, but what I was actually going to do. Because I have always known the difference between reacting and responding. And I knew that whatever I did next was going to matter, not just for me, for everything. I did not call Brianna. I did not confront Marcus that evening when he came home. I smiled. I made dinner. I asked about his day. I was pleasant and calm, and I gave away nothing. And the whole time I was thinking and planning and deciding and getting very clear on what my next move was going to be. I want to tell you that it was easy. It was not. Sitting across the dinner table from your husband while you know what you know is one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life. Every time he looked at me, I had to hold back the urge to just say it, to put it all on the table right then and there. But I knew that was not the right move. I knew that if I came out swinging without everything in place, I would give him the chance to deny it, to minimize it, to turn it around. And I was not going to let that happen. So I waited. I was patient in a way I did not know I was capable of being. I gathered what I needed. I talked to a few people. I made some phone calls. I consulted with someone who knew a lot more about my options than I did. And day by day, I put together everything that I needed. Marcus had no idea. He kept coming home at the same time, doing the same things, saying the same words. He bought me flowers one Friday evening for no particular reason. He suggested we take a trip for our anniversary. He talked about maybe finally finishing the basement renovation we had been putting off for 2 years. He was completely, utterly unaware of what was building just beneath the surface of everything he thought was normal. Brianna texted me twice that week. The first time she asked if I wanted to meet up for brunch on Saturday. I told her I was busy. The second time she sent me a funny meme and said she missed me. I sent back a heart emoji. And I felt something when I did that. Not guilt, just a kind of quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before something changes. Saturday came. Marcus said he was going to play golf with his buddy Derek. He took his clubs. He kissed me goodbye. I watched his car pull out of the driveway, and I stood at the kitchen window for a moment, just watching the empty street. Then I picked up my phone and I made the call I had been preparing for all week. I called my mother. Not to cry, not to fall apart. I called her because she is the most clear-headed person I know, and because I needed to hear her voice, and because there are some things in life that you should not carry alone, even when you are someone who is used to handling everything by yourself. I told her what I had seen. I told her what I had found. I told her what I was planning to do. She listened without interrupting. And when I was done, she said, "Taylor, I am proud of you for not burning everything down before you were ready." And then she said, "Now let me tell you what I think you should do." What she told me was not what I expected. It was not dramatic. It was not vengeful in the obvious way. It was practical and calm, and in some ways that made it the most powerful thing she could have said to me. She reminded me of who I was. She reminded me that I had built something in my life, professionally and personally, and that however this ended, I was going to be standing on the other side of it. She told me to move carefully and with intention. She told me not to make it easy for anyone to paint me as the one who lost control. I already knew all of that, but sometimes you need to hear it from someone who loves you before you can truly believe it. That afternoon, I took one more step. I got in my car and I drove to Brianna's neighborhood. I did not park in front of her house this time. I parked a little further down the street in the shade of a big oak tree, and I sat there and I thought about everything that had led to that moment. I thought about what I was going to do and what it was going to cost me. Because the truth is, when you make a move like the one I was planning, you do not just lose a husband. You lose a version of your life. You lose the future you had imagined. And even when that future was built on something that was not real, it still hurts to let it go. But I was ready. I had been getting ready for over a week, and I was ready. I drove back home, made myself dinner, and waited. Marcus came home that Saturday evening around 7. He smelled like fresh air and said the game had gone well. He dropped his keys on the counter the way he always did, kicked off his shoes by the door the way he always did, and poured himself a glass of water from the fridge the way he always did. Everything about him was relaxed. Everything about him said that he had no idea what was coming. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea that had gone cold. I had not turned on any music. The house was quiet. He noticed. "You okay?" he asked. "I am fine," I said. "Sit down. I need to talk to you." He sat. He still looked calm, maybe a little cautious, the way anyone gets when someone says those words, but not afraid, not guilty, not yet. I did not raise my voice. I did not throw anything. I did not cry. I looked at him across the table and I told him exactly what I had seen the Tuesday before. I described his car. I described the blue button-down shirt I had ironed that morning. I described the way he had laughed on Brianna's porch. I described the way he had touched her arm. I watched his face as I talked, and I saw the moment the calm broke. It was not dramatic. It was just a small shift, something behind his eyes that changed. He tried to explain. Of course he did. He said it was not what it looked like. He said they were just friends. He said he had stopped by to help her with something in the house and it was completely innocent. He said the way I was describing it made it sound like something it was not. He was very calm about it, very reasonable. And if I had not already spent a week with the credit card statements and the hotel receipt and the phone records, I might have believed him. I let him finish. I did not interrupt. When he was done, I slid a folder across the table. He looked at it for a moment before he opened it. And when he opened it, the calm left his face completely. I had printed out enough. Not everything, but enough. The dates. The charges. A few screenshots I had managed to pull from a shared account he had forgotten we still both had access to. It was not a wall of evidence. It was just enough to make denial impossible. And that was all I needed it to be. He did not say anything for a long time. He just sat there looking at what was in front of him. I watched him, and I felt something I had not expected to feel in that moment. I did not feel satisfaction. I did not feel power. I felt a deep, steady sadness that I think had been building inside me since the night I first found out. Because no matter how prepared you are, no matter how clear you are on what you need to do, there is still a part of you that hoped you were wrong. There is still a part of you that wanted to be wrong. And sitting across from him in that silent kitchen, I finally had to accept that I had not been wrong about any of it. He started to cry. I had seen Marcus cry exactly twice in 4 years. Once at his grandfather's funeral and once during a movie, which he still denied to this day. Seeing him cry at that kitchen table did not move me the way I think he expected it to. It did not make me want to reach across and comfort him. It made me feel more steady, not less. Because his tears were about him. They were about what he had done and what he was losing and how he had been caught. They were not about me. "Taylor," he said. "Just my name, like a question. I am not going to do this back and forth with you tonight," I said. "I am not going to sit here and let you explain it in circles. I know what I know, and I need you to understand that what happens next is not up for debate." I told him what I had decided. I had already spoken to an attorney the week before. I had already started the process of separating certain accounts. I had already spoken to my mother and 2 close friends who knew what was happening. I was not starting from zero. I had been building toward that conversation for over a week, and I walked into it prepared. I was not blindsiding him out of emotion. I was telling him what was already in motion. He asked if there was any chance we could go to counseling. He said he would do whatever it took. He said he was sorry, more than once, in more than one way. And I heard him. I genuinely heard him. But sorry does not undo a year. Sorry does not erase a hotel in Buckhead. Sorry does not change the fact that the person he had done this with was someone I had trusted my entire life, Brianna. I had not yet dealt with Brianna. I did not call her that night. I slept in the guest room and Marcus stayed in our bedroom and the house was very quiet. In the morning, I made coffee for myself and left early. I drove to my mother's house and we sat on her back porch and she held my hand and we did not say much for a while. She made me breakfast and I ate even though I was not hungry because she needed to feel like she was doing something for me and I understood that. That afternoon, I drove back home, got a few things I needed for the next few days, and went to stay with a friend. I was not running. I was just giving myself space to breathe and think without being inside the walls of a house that suddenly felt like a lie. 3 days later, I called Brianna. She picked up on the second ring. She sounded normal. She asked how I was doing. She asked if I wanted to try to get brunch that weekend. And for just a second, I felt the full weight of what she had done because she was sitting there sounding like my cousin, sounding like the person I had grown up with, sounding like the woman who had given a toast at my wedding that made my mother cry. And she knew. She had known the whole time. She had texted me memes. She had asked about brunch. She had said she missed me. And she had known. I did not yell. I did not call her names. I told her calmly that I knew. I told her I had known for over a week. I told her I did not need her to explain or apologize because there was nothing she could say that would change anything. And then I told her something I had thought about very carefully before I made that call. I told her that she had not just betrayed me. She had made a choice to do something that would affect our entire family for years, and that she was going to have to live with that. Not because I was going to make her life difficult, but because those things do not go away. They do not disappear because someone is sorry. They become part of who you are and what people know about you. And she was going to carry that. She started crying almost immediately. She said she was sorry. She said it had just happened, the way people always say these things just happen as if they have no control over their own choices. She said she had hated herself every day. She said she had wanted to tell me, but did not know how. She said a lot of things that I listened to without responding to, because none of it was for me. All of it was for her. She needed to say it, and I let her say it. And when she was done, I told her I needed distance, and that I would decide in my own time what our relationship would look like going forward. And then I hung up. I sat in my car for a moment after that call. The street outside was busy, people walking dogs, a couple jogging past, regular afternoon life going on all around me. I felt very still inside, not empty, just still, like something that had been wound very tight had finally been allowed to loosen just a little. The weeks that followed were not easy. I am not going to tell you it was clean or quick or simple. There were nights that were very hard. There were moments when I missed my life, not Marcus specifically, but the idea of the life I thought I had. There were days at work when I had to hold myself together through sheer discipline because I could not afford to fall apart in front of patients and coworkers. There were phone calls with attorneys that were long and exhausting. There were conversations with Marcus that were painful even when they were necessary. But through all of it, I kept my head up. I kept going to work. I kept working out in the mornings even when I did not feel like it. I kept showing up for myself even on the days when showing up felt like the hardest possible thing to do. Because I had decided from that very first night that however this ended, I was going to come out of it standing, not surviving, standing. Marcus moved out about 3 weeks after that kitchen conversation. He did not fight me on much. I think he understood that he was not in a position to. We were civil. We handled things like 2 adults who had once loved each other and now had to figure out how to close something that was not supposed to end this way. It was not easy, but it was not a war either, and I am grateful for that much. I filed the paperwork 60 days later. Brianna and I have not spoken since that phone call. Some of my family knows what happened and some of them do not. I have not made it my mission to spread the story. The people who needed to know. The rest of it is between me and the 2 people who made their choices. What I will tell you is this. There is a version of that Tuesday afternoon where I get out of that car and walk straight up to Brianna's door and everything explodes right then and there on her front porch. There is a version where I call Marcus right that second, screaming, giving everyone the warning they need to get their stories straight. There is a version where I fall completely apart and make every decision from that place of falling apart. I chose none of those versions, and I am not saying my way is the only way. I am saying it was the right way for me, because I know who I am. I know what I am worth. And I was not going to let the worst thing that had ever happened in my marriage turn me into someone I did not recognize. I am Taylor. I am 29 years old. I am a woman who saw something she was not supposed to see and decided to be smart about it. And I am still standing. If this story hit close to home for you, leave a comment below. You do not have to share everything. Just let me know you were here.